What's up, YouTube? It's your boy JP's and What's up, YouTube? It's your boy JP's on the keys, and there's two easy about the video today. And this is the last video of the Napoleon in Italy series, the Battle of Rivoli. Sorry, the Battle of Rivoli. I'm just. Without further ado, let's get to it, man. Let's not waste any time.
An Epic History TV PMF Productions collaboration. In 1796, at the height of the French Revolutionary Wars, a young French general took charge of a ragged, demoralized army in northern Italy. It was his first command. Many expected him to fail. Instead, in just 1 month, he won his first brilliant campaign. With astonishing self-confidence, boldness and energy, he led his army to victory after victory, transforming the war in Europe, winning praise from a grateful republic, and forging a legend. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte's first campaign, and the dawn of a new age. January 1797. A new year, but familiar problems for 27-year-old General Bonaparte, waging war against the Austrians in northern Italy. He has the great fortress city of Mantua under siege, and after a narrow victory at Arcole, he's once again driven back the Austrian armies trying to march to its aid.
Already.
But the French army of Italy is in a ragged state. Troops have not been paid for weeks. Their uniforms are disintegrating. Their shoes are broken.
You ain't paying your troops?
And above all, they're hungry.
And you ain't feeding them? Oh, nah, you're bugging.
One of Napoleon's major concerns is the wretched state of medical care for his men. The hospitals lack everything. Our wounded are lying on the floors and in the most horrible state of destitution.
Wow, man.
It's not just a question of saving lives and getting wounded men back to their units. Medical care affects morale, as troops going into combat want to know that if the worst happens, they'll be looked after. Conditions are much worse for the Austrian garrison of Mantua, commanded by Field Marshal Wurmser. In 4 months of siege, 9,000 soldiers have died from disease, wounds, or the effects of malnutrition.
Oh my God.
Survivors live off horse meat, civilians off rats and dogs. Even these miserable rations will run out by the 27th of January, just a few weeks away. The clock is ticking. The Austrians must relieve Mantua by that date, or lose the city, and with it, the war in Italy.
Uh-oh. The enemy is withdrawing his troops from the Rhine to send them to Italy. Do the same. Help us. We're only asking for more men. It's right. Right.
Napoleon, having received just 7,000 reinforcements, prepares to meet Alvinci's advance. He will not only be outnumbered, he doesn't know where his enemy will strike. And Napoleon must hold one division back to cover Wurmser's garrison. It's commanded once more by General Serrurier, recovered from his long illness. Augereau's division watches the Adige, while Massena guards Verona. The Northern Division has a new commander. Napoleon has sacked Vaubois for his poor performance and put in his place General Barthélemy Joubert. He is a hard-working, brave, and exceptionally modest commander, and like Napoleon, just 27 years old.
Young.
General Ray is in reserve south of Lake Garda. General Alvinci has received 14,000 reinforcements and orders to relieve Mantua as soon as possible. He is eager to march, but heavy snow and the late arrival of equipment and supplies delays his advance until the 7th of January. The first columns on the move are Provera and Berlich, but their offensive is merely a diversion intended to draw Napoleon's attention away from the main threat, which will be coming down the Adige Valley.
The big,
Alvinci has divided this force into 6 columns. Their mission is to envelop and destroy Joubert's division at Rivoli and clear the path to Mantua. But Rivoli is a strong defensive position. They must hit it hard and fast before the French can respond.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be trapped in there.
Napoleon, assuming any Austrian advance is still weeks away, has traveled to the Papal States with a column of troops commanded by Colonel Lannes. They intend to put a little pressure on the Pope, who continues to stir opposition to France. However, as soon as he receives reports of enemy movement, Napoleon races back to his headquarters at Rovabella. By now, Alvinci's forces have also begun to advance, but serious planning failures quickly emerge.
It's always something.
Lusignan's first column, on the right flank of the advance, has orders to cross the slopes of Monte Baldo and attack Joubert from the rear.
That's a beautiful landscape, though.
It's soon clear that these orders are wildly optimistic, dreamed up by staff officers who'd not seen the terrain.
Exactly.
The peak of Monte Baldo is more than 7,000 feet high. Its slopes are covered in deep snow and ice. The paths are treacherous, even more so after dark, and there is no firewood for making camp. Only by taking a wide detour can Lusignan make any progress at all, whilst losing 200 men to exhaustion and exposure.
Oh man. See, they didn't understand. That's crazy. You got them out there in the mountains?
The 2nd and 3rd Austrian columns reach the French outpost at Ferrara. An initial attack is repulsed, and following their orders, they wait for Lusignan's column to appear before launching a second attack. However, Lusignan's column is not yet in sight.
Look at these big ass mountains.
Alvinci's plan relies on swift, bold action, but just 48 hours in, it's falling apart.
I cannot think it was prudent to adopt a plan which, at this season, a fall of snow might render totally impractical. See, like, people, they don't plan for this because they're not in the war.
At Rovabella, Napoleon ponders the incoming reports. He knows that Joubert's forward outpost is under attack at Ferrara, that Massena has repulsed an Austrian attack on Verona, and Augereau faces a sizable Austrian force near Legnago, poised to cross the Adige. Is Alvinci using the same tactics as before, making his attack from the east? Then, a second report arrives from Joubert. His scouts have detected an enemy column marching around his flank. He has no doubt that he faces a major Austrian attack and has begun withdrawing his forces to Rivoli. "The report I have given you is exact," he tells his chief. "Be assured, the enemy will make every effort to throw me onto the blockade of Mantua."
Okay. I always wonder how long it takes for these messages to come back and forth. Like, do they have like are the scout? Yeah, I guess they got like people on horseback just like scouting in the back, or just people sitting in the back. I always thought about like how quick these messages get back and forth between these generals. Like just the way, how like the speed of communication. That's all I'm trying to figure out.
The enemy's plan has been unmasked, Napoleon announces, and issues a flurry of orders. Massena is to march immediately to reinforce Joubert. Augereau is to send him cavalry and guns, while the rest of his division keeps watch on Provera. Ray is to move up to Castelnuovo. Serrurier is to be on high alert for an attempted breakout by the Mantua garrison. While Joubert, the youngest and least experienced of Napoleon's divisional commanders, is instructed to hold Rivoli at any cost, and assured that help is on the way.
Alrighty. It's gonna be a battle, trust me. My friends, Bonaparte demands the last effort from you to annihilate the remains of the Austrian army, who have dared to come again and measure themselves against the Republicans. Alright, this is one last stand, man.
After giving the Austrians a bloody nose at Ferrara, Joubert has extricated his troops overnight and taken up a defensive position around Rivoli. Napoleon arrives around midnight and immediately sets out with Joubert to inspect the enemy's positions. The weather had cleared and the moonlight was superb. I climbed the different heights and observed the lines of enemy fires. They filled the country between the Adige and Lake Garda, and the atmosphere was ablaze with them. One could easily distinguish 5 camps, each composed of a column. Until reinforcements arrive, Napoleon has just Joubert's division, 10,000 men,
against
to hold
40-some
off
thousand.
24,000 Austrians.
Oh yeah, double.
But Alvinci will help to even the odds by ordering Lusignan's first column to attempt a wide outflanking march to cut off the French line of retreat. And Napoleon decides the main road to Rivoli, which passes through a steep defile known as the Pontari, can be held by a single regiment supported by entrenched cannon.
It's only one way in.
This leaves more manageable odds of 9,000 against 12,000 in the center. But Napoleon wants to push out his defensive line to hold the slopes that mark the edge of the Rivoli plateau.
Got the high ground,
4
right?
a.m., General Vial's light infantry brigade advances through the darkness. They drive back the Austrian outposts and take the San Marco chapel. They're followed on their left by the rest of Joubert's division. But the French push too far. Skirmishes break out along the line with heavy fighting on the heights of San Marco. Napoleon had not wanted to start the battle so early, but the combat escalates.
You got no choice now.
At dawn, the Austrians attack the plateau in force. The French 85th Demi Brigade is outflanked and routed by Liptay's second column. The 29th Light, on its right, is forced to retreat, and it looks like the French line is crumbling. But the 14th, on their right, fights tenaciously. It's an intense infantry battle across broken ground, vineyards and walled gardens, with sudden charges, hurried withdrawals, and counter-charges. When
I always noticed, like, the way that they fought wars back then is like, but the thing is, when you shot your rifle, you only got one shot because you took so long to reload. So it was, they shot the rifle, then they charged, and they're stabbing people with the bayonets. That's what I learned that most of this war is, like, a lot of close quarters, a lot of close combat, stabbing guys with bayonets. If you got a chance to shoot them, you had to hit them, because you couldn't just, like, there wasn't a clip or a magazine. You had one shot, and if you missed it, that's what you had to do.
the Austrians overrun a French battery, an officer demands, "14th, will you let them take your guns?" His troops mount a ferocious charge that routs the Austrians and reclaims the battery. By 9 a.m., Massena's troops have begun to arrive.
Look at them Austrians sneaking in from the back.
They take up position on Joubert's left. The buckled French line is stabilized. But so far, the French have only faced half of Alvinci's 6 columns.
Right, they're flanking. They're flanking you from
One
outside.
by one, the others now join the action. Vukasovic's 6th column is on the far side of the Adige River. But its guns cause havoc among French troops holding the Pontari. Under this covering fire, Royce's 5th column charges up the narrow road and in fierce fighting storms the French entrenchments. This advance threatens the entire French right wing with encirclement.
Encirclement, my favorite word.
Retreat begins.
My favorite word.
Moments later, gunfire to the southwest reveals Lusignan's 1st column has reached Affy, poised to cut off their escape. The French situation is desperate. They are outnumbered, surrounded, and under heavy attack. Napoleon's staff look anxiously to their commander,
What you gonna do now, brother?
wondering what miracle can save the army
You're surrounded on all sides and you can't even escape. What you gonna do? All looks turned toward General Bonaparte, but after a short inspection, he limited himself to saying calmly, "They are ours." The amount of confidence you gotta have when all is lost, when all hope is lost, it's like, man, we got it. They are ours. Oh my God. That's some, yo.
Sensing victory, General Alvinci and his staff ride forward to urge his infantry on. Napoleon remains calm. He knows Alvinci's center columns are near exhaustion and that they have no cavalry and little artillery support. He identifies Royce's column as the most immediate threat and orders Joubert to send every man and gun he can spare for a counterattack. General Leclerc and a 21-year-old Captain Lassalle then charge with the entire French cavalry, just a few hundred horsemen.
Because they have the biggest force.
Under this onslaught, the lead Austrian troops are driven back into the gorge. Here, they collide with the rest of the column coming up. Cavalry and infantry jammed together, some pushing forward, others trying to escape.
Disarray.
Joubert's men pour fire down on them from the overlooking ridge. The final straw is the devastating explosion of an ammunition wagon.
Oh!
Austrian morale breaks. The survivors flood back down the road to safety. Napoleon now turns his full attention to the center, where the exhausted Austrian columns have become spread out and disordered.
Because they put so much effort into
The sudden
their
appearance of
counterattack.
French cavalry, supported by infantry and guns, sparks panic and a mass rout. Alvinci, who must have thought himself on the cusp of victory moments before, must join in an undignified race to the rear, spreading further alarm among his men.
The morale, man.
By 1 p.m., the bulk of the Austrian army is in headlong retreat, leaving Lusignan's 1st column in an awkward position. Completely isolated, he begins a fighting withdrawal. But the arrival of General Rey's brigade in his rear triggers a rout.
Done.
Fewer than half of his 4,000 men escape. Through tenacity, courage, and good fortune, the army of Italy has turned a grim situation into an astonishing triumph. French casualties are modest. Austrian losses are devastating. Over the next few days, 5,000 more Austrians are captured as they struggle back through the mountain passes.
Like this is the supreme confidence to tell your troops, "Hey, I got this," and then figure out the way to actually do it. Like when you actually deliver on your promises and you do stuff like that, these people will literally run through a wall for you. Like these people are proud to go out and fight for you because they believe in you. That's crazy. Because they're almost getting encircled, and then he's like, you know what? We're gonna go back and corner who has us. We're not even worried about who's chasing us from behind. We're gonna get them first. Wow, just the level of knowledge and just the forward thinking. That's really what made him such a great general. Just the forward thinking.
Napoleon will not be there to see it. He's received news that Provera has crossed the Adige and is marching on Mantua. It is a chance for him to strike one more blow against the enemy.
Get Mantua,
and
keep it.
To seal the fate of Mantua.
Crazy. You are truly the spoiled child of victory.
Leaving Joubert in command at Rivoli, with orders to renew the attack at dawn, Napoleon races south with Massena's division. Provera has no clue of the disaster that's engulfed Alvinci's army, nor that the wolves now gather for him. He pushes on to Mantua, shadowed by Augereau, who snaps up his rearguard, 2,000 men taken prisoner. With just 7,000 left, Provera's only hope is to break through the French siege lines. First, he tries to attack San Giorgio. Formidable French defenses and a powerful cannonade stop him cold.
They've been sitting there forever, of course. They've been waiting. They were waiting for you.
The next day, he launches a coordinated attack with Wurmser against French forces at La Favorita.
Then here comes Napoleon.
But Napoleon has now arrived with Massena's division from the north. Wurmser's weak, starving men are forced back into the citadel, while a determined charge by the 57th Demi Brigade smashes into Provera's flank.
Yo, I just thought about it. That's such a smart move by the French to just encircle Mantua anyway. Like, we're not even going to attack you. We're just going to let you sit there. Because now we cut off all the supplies that can get to the town. So now you have to rely on what, just like earlier, they were eating horse meat. The citizens had to eat rats and other animals that they found. Like, basically letting them starve themselves out. That's such a smart thing to do. Like, you don't even got to attack them. There's no point because they're dug in, but they'll need some food eventually. They'll need to eat. They'll need new clothes. You know the disease is already rampant. So just let them kill themselves off. Let them tire themselves out. That's such a smart, like, the war of attrition. Man, listen.
With Augereau approaching from the east, Provera faces impossible odds and surrenders with his entire force.
Encircled. 2,000 to how many? 7,000 casualties. Yeah, you're done. You're cooked.
Wurmser's last hope of rescue has been crushed. He puts off the inevitable for 2 agonizing weeks, until, with all food exhausted, he finally accepts terms for Mantua's surrender on the 2nd of February. He and an escort will return to Austria. His 16,000 remaining troops become prisoners.
Damn.
Austrian losses in the campaign reach a staggering 44,000 men.
What? Why don't they take him prisoner? That's crazy. All them dudes just SOL, they just POWs. Whatever. I'm gonna go to Austria. That's crazy. What?
After 8 months,
how did he escape?
The Siege of Mantua is over. A victory that will soon be celebrated on the streets of Paris. But it is General Serrurier, not Napoleon, who takes the formal Austrian surrender. His commander-in-chief has already departed to take on his next opponent, the Pope.
He gonna get the Pope again. He trying. We will have everything that is beautiful in Italy, with the exception of a small number of objects in Turin and Naples.
From Rome, Pope Pius VI has once more been agitating against the French. And so Napoleon marches south with 9,000 men to explain the new realities of power in Italy.
Yeah, this is what's gonna happen.
At Faenza, General Victor's division sweeps aside papal forces, and Ancona is taken without a fight.
Yeah, I ain't worry about that little city.
The subsequent Treaty of Tolentino forces the Pope to give up Romagna, as well as 30 million francs and 100 works of art.
Just force him into giving that up.
Belatedly, Napoleon's victories persuade the Directory to back him in force. French armies stuck on the Rhine are ordered to send him reinforcements. Their 34-year-old commander, another rising star of the French army, is congratulated on his brilliant winter crossing of the Alps. His name is General Jean Bernadotte.
I feel like I've heard of him too.
On the 10th of March, with 70,000 confident, seasoned troops under his command, Napoleon goes on the offensive. He sends Joubert to invade the Tyrol, Massena to advance up the Piave Valley, while he leads the bulk of the army on the most direct road to Vienna. The enemy is scattered and demoralized. Even the appointment of a new commander, the Emperor's own brother, Archduke Charles, fails to restore morale. Charles is regarded as a military prodigy. He's 2 years younger than Napoleon and has defeated the armies of both General Jourdan and Moreau in Germany. But he does not have enough troops or time. He fights a delaying action at the Tagliamento River, but it ends in disaster when Bernadotte surrounds and captures 2,000 Austrians, 10 guns, and 8 standards.
Y'all just getting y'all ass whooped every time.
The French pursuit continues, with Massena covering Napoleon's northern flank. He arrives at Tarvis in time to block the Austrians' retreat. In 3 days fighting, the French take another 3,000 prisoners.
They just taking everything.
Napoleon's troops outmarch and outfight the Austrians at every turn. But his situation is more precarious than it seems. The other French armies are only just crossing the Rhine, while his own supply lines are now overextended and vulnerable. Rather than withdraw, Napoleon continues to advance, while proposing to Archduke Charles that they open peace negotiations. The Austrians accept. 2 days later, both sides agree an armistice, and peace talks begin at Leoben. After 5 years of conflict, Napoleon's dazzling advance into Austria has brought the War of the First Coalition to an end. So ends Napoleon's first campaign, almost exactly a year after it began, 380 miles away on the shores of the Mediterranean.
Your countrymen will say they will point you out. He belongs to the army of Italy. He did it, man. He did it.
Negotiations at Leoben become the basis for the Treaty of Campo Formio, signed 5 months later. The Austrian Netherlands, roughly modern Belgium, formally passed to France. The Venetian Republic, invaded and systematically looted by Napoleon's troops, is divided between France and Austria. So ends the 1200-year history of the serene Republic of Venice. The famous horses of St. Mark are among its many treasures dispatched to the Louvre in Paris to join its rapidly expanding Italian collection.
Yo, that's so funny, yo. We come in your country, kill most of your troops, and then hey, let's take some of your art and put it in our museums and display it to our people like, hey, look, this is what we took from Austria. See, look at what we took. It is such a bold thing to do. That's not even just bold. That's just such a really crazy braggadocious. Oh, we came in here and we just, we took some of their finest things. Because, art was extremely valuable. Like, even more valuable than it is now. Like, oh, we take some of your finest art, we can have that. Let's put it in our museums,
The French part of Venice joins its other Italian client states to form a new Cisalpine Republic. The author of its constitution, Napoleon Bonaparte.
Of course. Who else?
It's an illustration of how far the 27-year-old general has come in just a year. Having waged one of the most brilliant military campaigns in history, many would say his best, he now dictates terms to kings and popes, summons new states into being, and nurtures his status as the most celebrated military commander in Europe. He has achieved all this thanks to formidable intelligence, relentless hard work, and inspiring leadership, which he has used to forge a unique bond of trust with his men. He's had luck, too, along the way, and been ably served by a group of brilliant officers, many of whom will be with him for years to come. For Napoleon still has many extraordinary things to achieve. His Italian campaign is just the first chapter in one of the most astonishing lives in history.
This is crazy. I wish they did a video.
Did you know the epic?
I wish they did a video on like his fight and when he fought in the French Revolution in Haiti. I really want to see that, because that's what's really kind of intrigues me. Because I've seen a lot of the videos about. I've seen some like snippets and stuff, like little blurbs about, man, them Haitians was beating the shit out of them. Like the one general, like Toussaint, it was like him and Toussaint were gonna make a peace treaty, but then he killed him. And then there's just like a whole lot of crazy stuff, like how the French never paid back the Haitians and all types of crazy things. But to go to the Pope, like get rid of his little force. Like who cares about these little guards? Go to the Pope and be like, hey, this is what's gonna happen, and we're gonna take some land. We're gonna take some of your art. We're gonna take and give us some money too while we're at it. Like that's just so bold and so badass. This is why Napoleon is one of my favorite, because he just didn't care. He just did what he wanted. But he was so nice and militant. He was so nice, like you couldn't beat him. Like it's so hard to beat him. So you really couldn't say anything, because he was winning a whole lot of wars. So he was winning a lot of battles. But thank you so much. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Do not forget to turn on my post notifications if you haven't already. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. Please be safe. Stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.